Hello, this is Steve Holland, and in this presentation I'm going to talk with you about tone and style. How do you get tone and style into your writing, that is, gain control of it? First, what I like to do is introduce to you a very formal sentence structure, style of writing from Mr. Thorstein Veblen in his book on The Theory of the Leisure Class is the title. Most of us won't write this way today, and nor do we really want to. But keep in mind, this formal style was very significant in the early portions of the 1900s and was very favored. And so here I begin from Mr. Veblen's book, Theory of the Leisure Class, a paragraph. Abstention from labor is not only honorific or meritorious, but it presently comes to be a requisite of decency. The insistence on property as the basis of reputability is very naive and very imperious during the early stages of the accumulation of wealth, and is therefore the conventional mark of social standing. And this instance of the meritoriousness of wealth leads to a more strenuous insistence on leisure. According to well-established laws of human nature, prescription presently seizes upon this conventional evidence of wealth and fixes it in men's habits of thought as something that is in itself substantially meritorious and ennobling, while productive labor at the same time and by a like process becomes in a double sense intrinsically unworthy. Prescription ends by making labor not only disreputable in the eyes of the community, but morally impossible to the noble free-born man and incompatible with a worthy life. Whew! What did Mr. Veblen just say? Well, to paraphrase, the point of the paragraph is that if you don't have to work, not only must you not work, it is your duty to pursue leisure activities. And the more that you do, the more you will be seen as a noble person. Again, that's very loosely paraphrased. So why didn't he just write that way? Well, believe it or not, that if we take apart this style, within that structure, certainly there are more nuances of meaning than what I just provided you in my loose paraphrase, or as if say, summary. So how do we get at a style of writing for someone? Well, we look at sentence structure, diction, tone, and uses, and I'm going to quickly give you some pointers, and some of the terms will be discussed more in depth in the class or in other examples and exercises within this companion course. Now, looking at the formal style here, if you look at the sentence structure, we have very long and involved sentences in Mr. Veblen's case. We also have some parallel structure. They're very balanced. Periodic sentences can arrive in the formal style, and there are no fragments. Now think about the emails that you send to your friends. This is the informal style. They're short, simple sentences. Sometimes not even sentences, sometimes fragments. And almost always there's no sense of a balanced sentence or periodic structure. The sentence structure is usually simple sentences, sometimes compound, but generally very, very simple if there's sentences at all. They also will have clipped words, and they'll also have many, many contractions. Now that's part of diction as well. What is diction? Diction is use of vocabulary. In the Veblen case, the vocabulary was very extensive. There were many words with multi number of syllables. In the informal style, generally the words would have just one, two, or three syllables, don't usually tend to be long, and sometimes they're clipped, or you would have a word with letters left off, such as talkin, Talkin apostrophe. Now in the formal style, the tone is usually very serious. I think you will agree with me that the Veblen paragraph was a very serious paragraph. The informal style, where we might give our impression of that paragraph, tends to be not so serious, tends to be comical. We could poke fun at it. Sarcastic, we certainly could do that. We also could give a very, very loose translations, as I did, to make more of a connection to the readers. We're more interested in making a connection to the reader in the informal style than the formal style. In the formal style, you would agree that the reader will stand back. That is, will be held at arm's length. And generally the formal style tends to drift towards third person, where the informal style will be written in a first or second person. Now the uses of the formal style, they tend to be restricted, used for scholarly technical writing, for experts. They tend to be written for speeches to aim at elegance, and they tend to have a very distinguished approach. You know, you want to be something that's not part of the everyday common language. It's to be remembered, to be held up, to be thought about. And that's a very appropriate way to use the formal style. The informal style is very light, very chatty. You're probably giving it to a friend. We used to send more letters than we do today with emails, but you tend to be back and forth, and sometimes even your best friends can finish your own thoughts for you. Sometimes you're basically just writing to make connections with I'm here, you're here. But there tend to be very, very informal uses. They're not tended to be kept over time. You hit the delete button with them. There is one more blending here to talk about, and there is a step between formal and informal, which is moderate. And they take parts of each one of these things. And you in the composition classes, in my Comp 1 classes, you'll tend to be very, very moderate. I'm not quite the reader who's your email buddy, and I'm probably at this point of that class, I'm not really expecting to get formal style of language suitable for academic purposes. In this class, I'm getting stories that you're telling me about your experiences in life, because that's the nature of the assignments you're given. As you move on to research papers, however, the tone will step up more closely to that formal style. And so there you have it. There's a quick discussion of tone and style. If you want more on this topic, I suggest that you look at a book called Style, 10 Lessons in Clarity and Grace by Joseph M. Williams. I think it's a very nice book. Not only does it talk about such passages as was written by Mr. Veblen, but it also talks about how perhaps he could have used Joseph Williams's tips and maybe taken a little bit of that formality out of the language so that the rest of us might have been able to understand him much more clearly. Okay, good luck with tone and style.